So let's go ahead and get into this. As far as Dallas, week 1, this is going to be the season opener for the Browns and the Cowboys. Now, I think this is going to be a good one. You're going to have a defensive battle on both sides of the field. One of the big things that I will say is this. We know that Dallas's defense came off very dominant last season and then kind of, got a little shaky. The Browns kind of, took their time with it and then became the monster of a defense that we seen last year. But I think coming into this, the defense is going to be evenly matched. This is going to be a chess match coming into week 1. Now, the real question is who's going to perform better out of Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott. And this game has all the fixings of being one of the greatest week 1 games at 4:25 in the middle of the afternoon that we'll probably see in week 1. So, if I have to give my prediction in regards to this game specifically, if I'm removing the injury issues, if I'm removing the problems that Deshaun Watson may have mentally, from a talent standpoint and from a defensive standpoint, I got to lean this more towards the Browns. And I'm not saying that Dallas won't be up in this game because they most likely will, but I do think this will be one of those games where it's very close, low-scoring game. Dallas, Dak Prescott makes a mistake. Browns come down, score, tie it up, maybe get the ball back, win by a field goal. I think it's going to be a Browns victory in week 1. Next up against Jaguars, the Jags. This is another tricky one, right? Because we also know that the Jags are dealing with injuries. Trevor Lawrence, we're not sure if he's, lost a step or not coming into this next season. He's got some key pieces in there now that is definitely going to step up for him. And I like the Jags. I like what they've been able to do. The running game, the passing game. When Trevor Lawrence is on, he's on. The real question is whether or not, if he's able to bounce back from the injury himself. And he's kind of in the same situation that Deshaun Watson's in, to be honest. The only difference is, the Browns are playing the Jags at home. And this is, one of those games, once again, where it definitely could go either way. But I do think as far as, playing the Jags at home is a different animal. That defense is strong. It's going to be tough for Lawrence, but I do think they may edge it out in the end. So I will take the Jags with the home field advantage in a close game, without a doubt. Next after that's going to be the Giants. And, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I have no faith in Daniel Jones. I just really don't. I'm just not sure as far as, what this squad is going to do. And, things have just been terrible, unfortunately. I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy to get the job done. Tyrod Taylor obviously came in and tried to do the best that he could. And, I forgot the other guy's name with the DeVito. Yeah, DeVito guy. He had his 15 minutes and was gone. So, yeah, I'm just not sure as far as what these Giants are going to do because they just haven't really figured it out from, a quarterback perspective. And then obviously you get into the Raiders. I think the Raiders is going to be, a solid defensive team. But from a talent, perspective, I got to go with the Browns on this one. I think the Browns are going to have way more pieces in this game, way more playmakers. Albeit, I don't think the Raiders will go down easy, but I do think that the Browns will take it. Not a big fan of the Commanders yet at this point. I got to see what they're going to do next season before I really believe in them having anything going. So I got to go with the Browns in this one against the Commanders. The Eagles is kind of where I draw the line a little bit, right? The Eagles love to play these strong games against, high-powered defenses and teams that, you'd normally think that would just come into Philly and bulldoze them. And so, when we get into this game with Philly, the real question for me is, are they going to be able to stop the tush push? Is Myles Garrett going to be able to get to Jalen Hurts? I think this is going to be a battle. I think that Philly may have lost a step, but I'm not going to write them off completely. So I will say I'm going to take Philly at home. After that is going to be the Bengals, right? Bengals will be coming into Cincinnati or to Cleveland. And I think that this is one of those situations where is Joe Burrow playing at his full level, and is he back at 100%, or is he going to favor one of those legs, or something go wrong with his wrist? There's a lot of questions that I think everybody has coming into next season, just because you have significant quarterbacks coming off of injuries that definitely matter. These aren't small things. So, to me, the only big difference between Cincinnati and the Browns would be we're talking about the defense. I think the Browns have the better defense, so that may give them the edge. I would have to go with the Browns in this one, specifically because the defense is better. Now, getting into Baltimore, things are tricky now with Baltimore, right? There's been some offensive line changes, but you also got Derrick Henry. But I'll be honest with you. I know Derrick Henry is a big dude and he loved to run people over, but you ain't running through these Browns like that. Imagine Derrick Henry trying to bulldoze Myles Garrett. And you tell me how that's going to go. I'll wait. I think this is going to be a hell of a game for sure. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, phenomenal offense. On the flip side, obviously, Deshaun Watson and company, if they've got things clicking, it's going to be a show. I'm going to give the edge to Baltimore, though. I just think that, there's a lot of different threats that Lamar is going to be able to use now that Derrick Henry is going to be such a distraction, and that'll open up Lamar Jackson on the run, specifically, down the stretch when they needed the most. After that's going to be the Chargers, right? Chargers is going to be week 9, Justin Herbert and company. Unfortunately, with key wide receivers being traded out of the Chargers and Herbert kind of losing, some of his lifeline, I think that's going to affect, what he's able to do next year. And I'm going to give the advantage to the Browns in that one for week 9. And then obviously we'll get into the bye. We then get into week 11 with the Saints. Once again, are the Saints going to change things around? Are they going to still go through the motions? What's going on with Alvin Kamara? There's a lot of questions that you have there. I think their defense, the Saints defense isn't really up to task like they used to be. There's a lot going on. I think Michael Thomas was unfortunately the Saints' mistake. They kept him on for too long. They paid him a lot of money. He sat on the bench, and he definitely didn't have to do the job that he was supposed to do because he got the bag. So for the Saints, for me right now, I'm just not sure what's going to happen with them. So I'm going to ride with the Browns on this one. Week 12, they go against the Steelers, right? This is going to be a good one. You've got the question of whether or not Russell Wilson and Justin Fields is, who's going to take over that team, or, is Mike Tomlin going to figure out a scenario where, he can use both when it benefits him the most? Is this Russell Wilson's last hurrah? There's a lot of questions that go into, Steelers Nation right now. I think this would be a definite, defensive battle. I think this is one of those games that go down to the wire, dirty, fighting to the last second game. But I'm going to lean towards the Browns specifically just because I think there's more pieces for Deshaun Watson than what Russell Wilson really has on the Steelers team. And not to say the Steelers can't win it, because they can, but I do think that, it's going to come down to mistakes. And to be honest, I think Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, they're probably going to have the most because they're coming into this team. It's going to be a new offense, new chemistry for them. There's going to be a lot to figure out. After that's going to be Denver, right? What's Denver doing? Does anybody believe in Denver besides the Denver fans? We're going to cover them in a few or more than a few days, but by next week. There's a lot we got to talk about with Denver as well. Sean Payton, obviously we know him to be hell of a coach, but I think right now, the Broncos are in just, rebuild mode, to be honest. So I'm going to have to go ahead and take the Browns on this one. As far as with the Steelers, again, they may swap, right? Win one, lose one. It's kind of normally how it goes in those scenarios. And then, week 15, you get into Kansas City, the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs, ladies and gentlemen, the Super Bowl champions. How do you take this one? How do you predict this one? You've got Kansas City, week 15. You're going to be in Arrowhead, and you're playing against them when it matters the most. These are the last weeks of the season. These weeks are definitely going to have, playoff implications and determine seeding and all that good stuff. And this is where Kansas City really starts to shine. This is where Kansas City really starts to step up. And obviously, if they're not in a full position that you just know what seed they are, then these are the moments where Patrick Mahomes really goes into that bag. He turns into that Mahomes magic, and I think it'll be a tough time for the Browns going in Arrowhead to take a W. So I will lean more towards Kansas City coming into this game for Week 15. Obviously, they'll have Cincinnati again in Week 16. The Bengals. They'll be obviously playing them at home. At this point, I'm assuming that Joe Burrow's figured things out. I'm assuming that, they've got the chemistry going. I'm assuming that, Burrow's made it this far without any kind of injuries or his previous injuries affecting him. If so, I think this could be a significant game for the Bengals being at home. And I will lean more towards the Bengals being at home later in the season when it matters the most. After that, it's going to be Miami, the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of challenges that the Browns defense would have to work through with Miami. Now, the issue here, for me at least, is when you look at Tua, is he going to be better this year because he decides to run now? Or is he going to keep playing that pocket because he wants to avoid getting hit? And I think that's where a lot of the issues next year may come up if he tries doing too much. I like what he did last year. He did play it safe a little bit. He got rid of it very fast. He didn't take too many hits. And when he did go down, he didn't go down hard. So I think next year he may try to, pull out a little bit more, go in that bag a little bit more, still try to avoid the hits and play it, try to play his game. But I think this would be a good one, right? Because that Browns defense ain't no joke. And even with all the talent that Miami has, if this Browns team has got it going and they figured it out, Miami could be in some trouble. So I'm going to lean more towards the Browns on this one in a close game. Week 18, it's going to be Baltimore. And then obviously that will be it for the Browns season. When I look at the schedule, it's a great bag. It's a great bag of surprises, some challenges for sure. The big thing for me is understanding whether or not Deshaun Watson is going to go out this season and be great. That's it. You can break it down however you want to. You can look at the stats. You can look at other teams defensively. The real question is, will Deshaun Watson become great this year? And if he's able to do that, then you're going to find these Browns in the postseason again, and they may be a threat.